Howdy guys, Kirk and Jay here with Kirk Giordano Plastering. Today what I'm going to show you guys is a common sense way and questions to ask if you're going to have insulation shot in your house. Now on this particular house, they have a couple hundred holes. You can see throughout where they placed all the holes. This is the side where there's not very many. There's actually 200 to 300 holes on this one little itty bitty house. Come back over here, Josh, please, and let me show you folks some things first that I've learned in 30 years of doing this. Now, number one, when a fellow comes in and they drill the holes in it, generally what they'll do, guys, is they'll drill holes and they'll bust the membrane, depending on what they start off with. I can go on for hours about what they start off with. Here they have a solid inch of stucco, then they have a solid inch of wood. Now, when I got here a week or two ago, they had some wood plugs here, and the wood plugs were the exact same size as the holes themselves. And so they weren't, what's that word, Jay?
Tapered.
They weren't tapered. Now, most folks, they'll use a cork, and the cork will be tapered. That cork will start off narrow, and then it'll end up fatter at the end, and they just pop that in, and that seals it pretty well. Well, these folks had pieces of wood, and they had 3 and 4 in one area where you just push them and they all went through the wall. So I explained to the homeowners, I said, here's my advice to you folks. Number one, wood, the reason they don't use wood for bottles is, say like wine bottles, is the wood expands when it gets wet. So they left us with something that we could not repair. I said, here's my advice, guys. Go back and tell them, get your butts back over here, fellas, and put some polyurethane caulking. And we prefer Sikaflex, but that's anybody's business what they want to use. I said, number one, I can't waterproof this pieces of wood. And if I tried to stucco, the stucco would push them in. My advice was to have them come back, put some polyurethane around the wood, push them in there just right, and then cover the wood up with a polyurethane caulking. Is that the best way with what they have to work with? It is, because after 30 years I have yet to find a company that will come drill the holes, then break out around a little bit bigger, put polyurethane caulking, put the paper, and then the wire. I've never seen that done, probably never will in my time. But the idea is to waterproof this. If you're going to go and create the holes, you want to at least do some good, where you don't want to open 200 holes that are subject to get wet. Anyhow, so what we're doing today is, now that those folks have come back and they have done what we recommended, what I told the homeowner is, now we'll just take a trowel and break around the edge and get some of the excess off. I've already gone around, and we're going to do every hole like this, and basically what that does is it opens up the loose paint. Then we take a bonding agent. Now let's see, my brush, my handy dandy brush. We take a bonding agent, and there's about 10 different bonding agents, guys, and all we're going to do is we're going to fill these holes with this bonding agent, because we're going to plaster over here now. Again, I've stuccoed thousands upon thousands of holes, and I've given advice to folks, if you're going to have this done and you're going to pay a professional to come in and create the holes, their job is to watertight it for fellows like us to just come in and plaster it. I said, if you would like, what we can do is we can break around here and patch it a little bit better, and of course 200 holes would take us 5 days, 8-hour days to do that. They said, Kirk, just fix what we have here, patch these in and match the finish. That's all we want. And most of our, well, every job I've ever done, that's all anybody's wanted. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to prep it first. So every one of these holes is going to get this exact same treatment. And the reason I'm breaking this out here a little bit better is because they're going to pressure wash the house, then they're going to paint it. So they could have done that first too, by the way, but since they didn't, we'll do it this way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to mix up a couple buckets of mud and patch this in, and I'll show you how we patch it in. And then this finish, actually, it looks difficult, but it's one of the simplest finishes to match. So we got our day cut. We're going to try to show you in a 10-minute video or less what's going to take us about 8 hours to do. But we'll just show you this one little area. Okay guys, I'll show you how we do our patches. Generally Jay will do all the top stuff off ladders and I do all the low stuff. And what I'm using is a rapid set, because some of these patches are 1/4 inch to 2.5, 3 inches thick. So what I'm doing is I'll generally put my hawk under every hole too, guys. Like, I'll fill it, leave it. I'll fill it, leave it. And I've already done about 75 of these. We have about 100 left. See, that one is about 1/4 inch, where this one is 2 inches. It's the entire length of the stucco as well as the wood. And this is, again, half the battle, guys. You got to know your cements. And what I'll generally do is I'm going to finish all of these, and then I know exactly, I know when this cement here is going to cure or set. And when it sets, I want to use skill to float them and not muscle. If this turns white or dry, then I'm going to have some obvious patches. We don't want that. When we're done, we want it to match. So give us about another half hour. I'm going to go ahead and spread out the rest of these 100 holes or so on the bottom. Then I'll show you how we float it in. It's really simple if you know how to do it, and it does take a lot of time in to get to the stage we're at today. Okay guys, now that we've got a couple hundred of these holes patched, this is the part that actually takes some time in. For me, this is the easy part. For you guys, if you try to do this, you'll say, damn, how did Kirk do that? What I'm doing, guys, is I'm feathering in the edges, away from it, away from that patch. And it's just, the stucco's at the stage right now where it's just right, where if I wait another 15 minutes, I'm going to lose these patches, meaning they'll be too stiff and I won't be able to bring the aggregate out. And the aggregate's a fancy word for sand. This is a heavy float finish here, so that's what I'm doing. I'm floating it with this sponge float. And see how I'm doing that, guys. If there's too much water, I'll wash it out. If there's not enough, it'll drag. The idea is, say for example, I'm going around the perimeters, and that is so that it'll adhere very well. Can I just do this? Yeah, I can do that. But then I leave a drag mark here. So I come down, I come around. I just follow the perimeter of each hole. Nothing to it. If you have about 20, 30 years experience behind you, the idea is bring the aggregate out. And there's a lot to this that a 10-minute video is not going to show you, such as, I got a little piece of glue right there, so we're going to have to handle that. As far as making each one match, just takes time in. I'm holding my bucket of water here, guys, only dipping a little bit in. And again, we feather into the paint, we feather into that texture. We've got about another 4 to 5 hours of messing around here, but I thought I'd show you folks a little bit about what we do and why. And a couple last tips, guys. If you're going to hire a fellow to do all of your holes, ask questions. Say, hey, do you guarantee the holes as far as not leaking? Make certain that they do everything as far as put their corks in, caulk around it. You don't want to be like this fellow where I had to come out and he had to call them back. Make sure that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. And then a fellow like me will come behind them and do the matching of the textures. And I do work for about 8 or 9 fellows who do the insulation. They call me and say, Kirk, go match the texture. Anyhow, guys, my name is Kirk. I'm with Kirk Giordano Plastering. Jason on the camera, and also doing all the top stuff for us. We thank you for watching, and as usual, we'll see you guys on the next one.